Nice to meet you all. Thanks for coming today. My name is Natalie. I am Director of Conversion Rate Optimization Strategy at The Good. And our mission is to remove all the bad online experiences until only the good remain. We do this in a number of ways, primarily through A/B testing and data-driven design. I've personally overseen thousands of tests for our clients and hundreds of millions of dollars in added revenue. And we'll talk a little bit today about our methods and how that can support you in your work. So raise your hand if you have anything to do with retargeting or Google Shopping, any experience where someone might be coming to the site on a page other than the homepage. Yeah. Okay. So we know that these experiences are sort of the antithesis of what we think the funnel used to be, right? It's a primary way that users enter the site is landing on a product page. And it's kind of a special experience. I think when we think of a funnel, we think of conversion funnels as sort of like starting from the home page. But often users are entering the site through a page that doesn't actually give them a ton of information. And they might be in sort of a comparison mindset, whether that's through retargeting or through Google Shopping. In the case of Google Shopping in particular, users are landing on the home or the product page. They might have a ton of other tabs open. And so they're sort of having a special experience that doesn't really jive with our mentalities of what the old way used to be. And we look at a lot of data. We look at data from interviews, heat map analysis, data analytics platforms, probably similar to some of you. And what we hear from most of our clients is that, in general, about 75% of folks who come to a website are net new. Now, if we're looking at Google Analytics, we know there's some, black holes in that data, and it's not always perfect. But in general, across platforms, we find about 75% of folks who land on a website are net new. And when we interview folks doing Think Aloud protocol and user-centered research on their sites, we find that folks generally say, who are coming to the site, yeah, maybe I like what I'm seeing, maybe it's interesting. But in general, they're going to make a comment like, I would probably go back and look at some of the other products I saw on that last page, which could have been the Google Shopping page. And so you can stand out from competitors, and we want to understand what challenges users are facing on your site. So today we'll give you the recipe for sort of understanding how you can convert more of your product page traffic to make the most out of holiday visitors. We don't want them to just land on your site, see it as another one of those tabs, or your client site, see it as another one of those tabs, and then go into that comparison shopping phase. So there are three main steps to leveling up and standing out in that sea of sameness during the holidays. First, we'll talk about understanding your users and their conversion barriers. Then we'll talk about defining the opportunities and solutions. And then we'll talk about how you might validate those solutions. My goal today is to give you a condensed graduate level course, an intro course into conversion-centered design, so that you can walk away empowered today to make decisions that will increase sales, increase customer satisfaction, and ultimately turn these sort of comparison shoppers into brand loyalists. So step one, understand users and their conversion barriers. It feels way before we're looking for solutions pre-holidays. I even feel like it might be a little late to start some of the things that we all want to be working on for the holiday season. But we do need to understand our audience in order to do that. And so that means understanding where they're coming from, how they're behaving, and what's important to them. And what do we mean by understanding your audience? There are really four, but we'll talk about three today, kind of big buckets of insights that we generally find. So those are foundational observations about truths about our users, like age and location, top pages, where they're coming to the site. These are just foundational insights that shift only slowly over time. And this is probably what you're seeing in some of your dashboards. Any marketer has tools that can help them understand foundational insights. Situational insights are about user experience challenges. So that means things like what's worked before for us, how are customers responding to our site, and the changes that we're making on it. Motivational insights are largely about mindset. And so that's about understanding the ideas that our customers hold, for instance, and that gives us context into how we might better serve them. So we're going to talk about that first one first, foundational insights. Again, these are observations, they're facts about our users, they're foundational to understanding the user journey. On their own, they don't really signify any challenges. You might look at data analytics all day long and still not know what's wrong with your site, but it is a building block to understanding that greater context. So they give us context that's important to understanding that user journey and painting a fuller picture of the user experience. So looking at foundational insights, you're trying to answer questions like how are users behaving on their site and what do they engage with? So I mentioned that most marketers probably have access to some kind of analytics platform. Often these foundational insights are discovered through things like Google Analytics. And so they help us understand that behavior engagement, who's coming to the site, what pages are they landing on? Are they on tablet or desktop or mobile? These are all sort of the basic levels of things that you need to know in order to move on to that next step. We can also look at things like heat maps to understand those foundational insights. So literally, what are they doing on the site today? We might start to form hypotheses about what we can improve, but foundationally knowing where folks click will help us move on to that next step. This is an actual heat map from one of our clients. This was a site with tons of stuff in the navigation. Somewhere buried in the middle of that list, folks were clicking on what we do. So they're on the homepage. They should probably know what we do, but instead they're going to sort of a deeper level in the navigation in order to understand that. This site in particular had a video that was sort of on autoplay, but nobody was clicking play, right? And so they spent a lot of their time and marketing budget and effort to make this great, big, beautiful video, but people were still finding somehow in the navigation what we do, not clicking things on the homepage. That helps us understand what might motivate or demotivate people from engaging with the brand. So talking about situational insight, what is it? It tells us the context of what's happening on the interface. Are people able to complete a task? Are they satisfied with their experience? We're really trying to understand at this point pain points that are impeding or delaying the user's ability to reach their goals and at the end of the day, hopefully give us their money. So while users may not be aware of their user experience challenges, the issues here can delay that conversion or those positive outcomes for them as well as you. So situational insights answer a ton of different questions. We won't go over all this. Like I said, this should be like intro to conversion-centered design. This might be like 201 to go deep into everything. But just know that the kinds of things that prevent or delay task completion are vast. There's often a lot standing in the way between users and a conversion. And so I'll give you just a few examples. So looking at content fatigue, what is content fatigue? It's when users are overwhelmed with so much content, it causes mental fatigue and can kind of discourage engagement. This example is from an FAQ. So already if you're on the FAQ, you're sort of like searching in the desert for water that might not be there. If you're on the FAQ and you're clicking through a number of items and then reading through to find maybe that one little bit of information, obviously this user is hunting for info. That difficulty that they have searching might cause content fatigue because they're searching for so much, and it might prevent them from whatever positive outcome is on the other side of that. High interaction cost is another form of a situational insight. And this is really about how many steps it takes for the user to complete an action. So this is probably more foundationally what we think about when we think about UI or UX design, like how effortful is it for the user to complete that action? That's the difference between seeing like a buy now with Apple Pay button on the product page or going through multiple steps and a cumbersome checkout to get to that end result. So high interaction costs, again, it delays or prevents that conversion. And it's actually costing users time or effort to get to that next step. So those situational insights answer things like, can users complete the desired task? And then did they have a good time doing it, right? Were they satisfied with the experience? But there's also this aspect of motivation. And motivation or apprehension issues, they represent sort of a disconnect between what users want, the effort that they're willing to expel, and then the perceived payoff of that effort. So motivational insights answer questions like, what motivates users to purchase? Are they connecting to our products? And then what's holding them back from purchasing today? So those are things that might be a little bit more intrinsic to them. If they lack motivation, it might be because their wants and needs and commitment level just aren't matching up to what we're presenting on this site. So a lot of things go into that. Again, this is the 101 class, but just taking a look at the two forms here by asking folks to complete a survey, which of these is more motivating? Or perhaps the better question is, which is more demotivating? If you see one and you perceive it as more effortful, my sort of commitment level might not match up to the ask that's being required of me on the left-hand side. So we might design an experience that looks like it has a little bit less effort to complete. But there's also, sort of a use and a need for us to tap into some of the users' innate motivations. So these are some quotes for interviews that we did for an eco-friendly paint company. We wanted to understand why someone might or might not be interested in their product. And we found that people just, in general, they kind of fell into two buckets. They wanted to put their health first, or they were still price sensitive, but they wanted to find a high quality product. So by understanding kind of both of these deeper motivations behind why folks might buy from us today, we were able to tap into that with messaging and testing and promotions on the site. So how do we find all of these insights? Again, you're probably in touch with or every day inside of an analytics tool set, but there are so many other methods to explore. Keeping it a little bit high level, we like to do user testing. We use what's called think aloud protocol. So we literally get folks who are in your target demographic to come to the site, and we ask them, think aloud as you perform this series of tasks. And having them think out loud, that gives us those quotes that we saw on that last screen. So we can start to read between the lines to understand what's motivating or demotivating users on the site. We also do heat map analysis and observational analysis. Again, foundational helps us understand what users are or are not engaging with, where they're falling off the site, where they might be leaving. We really love to look at session recordings too, kind of creepy, super helpful. We like to see things like rage clicks on the site. What do people think is something that they should be able to click on, but it's just not giving what they're asking for? So looking to understand all of this stuff, this was a wholesale page trying to promote these really large orders from a company like a Facebook or Logical Position who does a branded notebook. And folks wanted to see the colors in multiple variables, but it just wasn't serving that on that page. They could be losing out on a ton of revenue or putting barriers between them because they have to make a phone call to ask a question in order to get an answer that the website might have been able to answer in under a second, right? So it's just a barrier. So I am going to show you some tactics that you can try on your client's site to turn visitors into brand loyalists. But I think first, the thing that I want to say here is this is just the tip of the iceberg. Learning how to serve your customers and your clients starts with understanding your audience. And these are just a few methods that you can tap into for relatively affordable with, starting out with no expertise, I think is better than just doing nothing. Okay, so at this point, that was step one. We understand who our users are, what their motivations are. Foundationally, who are they? Where are they coming from? Can they complete certain tasks? What's standing in their way? What motivates them intrinsically, right? So it's one thing to have insight. It's another thing to know what to do with it. And there's more than one way to skin a cat. So we'll talk about how we can solve one problem with multiple treatments to get to a similar goal. So this is an example of a couple of different sites that are doing Google Shopping advertising. And when we talk about the product page, again, this is just one of the top entry points to your site. Thinking about, the old sort of version of web funnels, we thought that they started on the homepage. That's kind of old hat. A lot of folks are entering the site today through a product page. So imagine you're one of our clients and about 60% of your sessions start on a product page, or maybe 75% of your traffic comes from Google Shopping. A lot of those folks are going to land on product pages. And imagine that you have a high bounce rate and you know why. Imagine that you've already done all the necessary research to get to understand the problems. Now we're just trying to solve the problem of, okay, we're paying for this traffic to come in. How can we get them not to leave our site? We know the context that they have because we understand their motivations and we understand what it's like to be on their side of the screen and have multiple tabs open. So the opportunity here is to increase intentional browsing is what we call it. And what we mean by that is it's not enough anymore to just slap up a product page with some manufacturer generated copy and leave that up on the screen and just say, here you go, here's our product. It's sort of like giving your friend a bag of coffee that they then hand to their friend and say, I heard it's good, right? That's not enough context. People are no longer walking to our digital storefronts through the homepage where we sort of have spent all this time and energy putting together, this highly curated marketing copy. So if you want to encourage folks to stay on your site and stop comparing your product to competitor products and rather start comparing your product to maybe your other products or getting introduced to your wheelhouse, one thing you might do is take a cue from these purveyors. So we have REI, North Face, and then looks like Olakai up there. One of the things that they're doing is just trying to keep folks on site with breadcrumbs. And that feels a little bit old school, but why is it important in this context? Because I know that if this hat is not the hat I wanted, I see other men's sun hats and other men's headwear. I know that North Face sells more accessories. In the Olakai example, instead of doing breadcrumbs, they're literally featuring other categories here, like shoes, sandals, and golf. So maybe I came in for one kind of shoe, but I have now an understanding and perhaps a need driven to go to other subcategories on the site. So all of a sudden, I'm staying in this wheelhouse instead of going back to Google Shopping. So another example, same strategy, keep users on the site, slightly different execution, slightly different tactic, is just featuring, again, more content above the fold that helps users find other pathways. In this example, it says shop more from grooming with a clickable link. So the opportunity there is maybe I came in for this product. It wasn't exactly what I needed, but now I know that they have a whole grooming category. So I might stay on this website to shop grooming kits rather than going to the other links I might have open in my other tabs. I think Etsy, we take a lot of, inspiration from Etsy. They offer some of the best additional shopping paths that there are for ad targeting and traffic. We can talk about decision paralysis another time. I'd rather people have decision paralysis on your site than decision paralysis between your product and other competitors' products. But they show recommended products above the fold. And so even if this specific set of dog bow ties is not for you, you can find many more dog bow ties on Etsy without ever leaving their site. And so really great for marketplaces, obviously. If you scroll down far enough on the page, you're also going to see a ton of other appealing alternatives to the product you just clicked on. Target's another really good example of this. They'll have best for you, pairs well with, etc. So there's a lot of tactics that they're using to put folks into pathways to look and explore and compare other products on their site. Sort of get lost there rather than getting lost comparing you between competitors. So in the marketplace context, this works really well. On a site where you have a ton of SKUs, this works really well. If you have similar products, this works great. Again, main point is we're trying to get them to stay here rather than going back to another tab on Google Shopping, for instance. I'll just give one more example of like a challenge you might find and how you might address that. This is just showing a couple of websites that people might be comparing in an everyday context. So on the left-hand side, we have two different sites that offer powdered greens. On the right-hand side, we have two different websites that offer a daily vitamin or supplement. And so if I'm a user just landing on the site from an ad, I might be unfamiliar with the brand and I may never visit the homepage. And we've done tons of analysis on different sites, and we know that this context is really common where people come to this product page and they never even visit the homepage. And I've heard marketers argue all day long about what should be on the homepage and what do we feature in the hero? Should it be a rotating carousel? What's the order of things below the fold? And then just slap up a product page with an image and a description and think that that's enough. It's not enough. So why should I buy from you versus a competitor is the question I'm asking when I look at these pages. The opportunity here is to establish trust and authority on first view. Make someone who never goes to the homepage endear to you just as much as someone who knows the brand and sees all that good marketing messaging on the homepage. So this is all stuff that's shown on some of these product pages that I highlighted on the last slide. Users on the powdered greens pages are able to learn about the brand's values without leaving that page. They're showing users, we go above and beyond with these certifications, telling folks what is and is not in the product, badges, and a little bit of sort of like brand values and quality statements there. Another opportunity is showing users who's behind the brand to build trust and authority, whether you have a name for the brand or maybe someone who certified you and you can leverage their authority and reputation to build trust in this space. Another thing that we'll see is, they're even showing ingredients disclosures and some, tactics to make people feel informed and confident about the product they're seeing. So these are all without ever leaving the product page, giving people trust, authority, giving them relevant context. So these examples are hopefully inspiring you to get exposure. But getting exposure and getting inspiration are not enough. You have to pair that with the contextual insights you got back in that research stage, getting to know your customers. And then what we would recommend is actually testing that. And I think that is the secret to success. If you've done steps 1 and 2, you understand your users and their behavior, you understand their conversion barriers, and you have some ideas for what opportunities or solutions might work for you. At that time, you're ready to validate your solutions. If you've never done the first 2 steps, that might be enough for you. Let's not move into this like step 3 yet. Just start there. Understand your users, understand where they're coming from, get some ideas to meet their needs. But what I will say is if you're just taking all your good ideas, especially for the CEO or CMO in here, you're just taking all your good ideas to your designer and saying, put this up on the site. I like how Athletic Greens does it. We call that spray and pray. You're just taking every trick in the book and putting it on the website and hoping that that solves all the problems. What we recommend is strategically validating some of those risky decisions. And what we mean by that is there's a difference between being data informed and then like actually data driven. Being data informed is like, we're using all that good data we got in the research phase to form a hypothesis. Being data backed is like, did we actually test and validate that that was the best direction to go? A lot of the really, really large companies we work with are not releasing any feature changes without testing them first. And that's even bug fixes. Ask me later about the Airbnb test where they quote unquote fixed a bug that totally crashed conversions from the homepage. So data driven is the merriment between having that sort of data informed background and having that data backed validation method. Like I said, I've overseen thousands of tests in our time. We have a very high win rate, which means that of all the tests that we run, about 40% of them produce better results for our clients. So that's measurably better revenue or measurably better funnel metrics. Industry-wide, it's like 10 to 20%. And that means that like 90% of things that you could throw up on your website that are technically data-informed, great ideas are doing nothing or doing a detriment to your site. So dev time wasted is how I would say that simply. So instead of spray and pray, we recommend that systematic approach. You can do it in a number of ways. I'm not going to inundate you with the details of all these, but these will all make Googleable terms after this if you feel like you're ready for step 3. So what's right for you will vary based on your resources, your traffic levels, and your company culture. And I'll just run you through a few types of tests that we recommend. These all, again, make great Google search terms because we're not going to go into the nitty-gritty today. But A/B testing is probably the most popular one. It helps you understand sort of if you put, let's just say, 2 versions of a site next to each other, which one converts better. Helps you measurably understand with statistical confidence which of these versions is going to perform better for you and your audience. There are other ways. We also do task completion analysis. That allows us to just quickly test new ideas to understand time on task and success rates. So if we have an established product and we're changing the button, how long does it take for folks to find the new thing? If we haven't launched this site before, are people going to find something better if we put it under a boots or all footwear category, for instance? So lots of things that you can learn from task completion, time on task, directness. Did it take them a really long time to get there, but they succeeded? Again, this is the 101 version, keeping it high level. Sentiment testing is also great. So when we talk about motivation, we don't necessarily have to have like statistical confidence that we're motivating people, right? We just need to know we spoke to their emotions. Emotions are somewhat hard to measure, but we try to do it through sentiment testing. And this just allows us to understand how folks might react and respond to a specific treatment. So we might put a new design in front of a known user or put 2 designs in front of a net new user and say like, how does this make you feel? Are you motivated to purchase? What would stop you today? And we get great feedback from that. And not only do we get to understand what might motivate them, but we get sort of qualitative insights as well. Like this picture really reminds me of this other brand that I already think is high quality. So therefore I associate this brand with high quality, right? Those associations are important. So that's just a taste of the approach that we take to removing all the bad online experiences until only the good remain. We really want all y'all to grow thriving fan bases for yourselves and your clients. So that starts with understanding users, defining and validating how we might convert them into raving fans. If you are ready to start seeing your site through the lens of an optimization specialist, we do have free eye tracking heat maps online today only. So scan the code, get a free eye tracking heat map. We'll send you an email with some details about it, and then you can put it in front of Katie over there or myself, and we can talk to you about it. If you want the 201 version, I don't know, maybe I'll start a podcast. Let me know what questions you have. Thanks so much.